Tonight on First at 9 this Friday, the 29th of September 2023. Upward revision. CEB requests PUCSL approval to implement a tariff revision next month. PUCSL begins gathering stakeholder recommendations. One Belt, One Road. President Ranil Wickremesinghe to visit Beijing in October for Belt and Road Forum.
President of Sri Lanka is expected to visit Beijing in October for the third Belt and Road meeting for international cooperation.
China expresses strong support.
China will continue to formally support Sri Lanka in pursuing a development path.
Inclement weather. Heavy rainfall to continue. Early landslide warnings extended.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to AdaDerana First at 9. I'm AdaDerana joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now in your top story tonight, the Public Utilities Commission has begun calling recommendations from stakeholders for an upward revision of electricity tariffs in October upon a request made by the Ceylon Electricity Board. The PUCSL pointed to a 31 billion rupee loss to be incurred by the CEB by the end of this year and limited levels of hydropower generation as reasons behind the CEB's request for an upward tariff revision. Accordingly, PUCSL Chairman Professor Manjula Fernando stated that once the tariff revision is implemented in October, there will not be any tariff revisions in the month of January next year.
The Ceylon Electricity Board has once again requested the Public Utilities Commission to allow them to implement an upward tariff revision. In a media communique, Chairman of the Power Regulator, Professor Manjula Fernando, stated the CEB has submitted this unique tariff revision proposal in alignment with the Cabinet decision. He noted that as per the government's policy advice on electricity tariffs, the CEB can submit proposals for the revision of electricity tariffs in January and July of the year, while the next tariff revision is scheduled to come into effect from January next year. He stated the Cabinet of Ministers, however, has decided to move forward with the tariff revision scheduled for the month of January 2024 within this year, according to the information presented by the CEB on the differences of financial, electricity generation and electricity demand from the forecast conditions. Accordingly, the PUCSL chief highlighted that there will be no tariff revision again in January next year. Professor Fernando stated the CEB has estimated that there will be a loss of 31 billion rupees this year and added that the hydropower generation will be limited to 3,750 gigawatt hours instead of the expected 4,500 gigawatts this year as per the CEB's proposal. He also pointed to the CEB's statement that the power generated from the Noracholi coal power plant will be less than anticipated due to the unexpected malfunctions. Further, Professor Fernando added that the need to purchase emergency power due to the decrease in hydropower is also highlighted as a factor by the CEB that has affected the tariff revision. Due to the aforementioned reasons, the PUCSL chief said the CEB has requested an upward revision in electricity tariffs. The PUCSL noted that one of the proposals put forward by the CEB is to increase the charges by 22% to all consumers as fuel surcharge, while the other proposal is to increase an electricity unit by 8 rupees. Taking these proposals into account, the Public Utilities Commission is soliciting input and recommendations from stakeholders regarding the proposed electricity tariff adjustment scheduled for implementation starting from October, and they are requested to submit them to the Commission in writing. In addition, the public has also been given the opportunity to submit their comments and suggestions orally on the 18th of October at the stakeholder consultation which will be taking place at the BMICH. The PUCSL noted that the final decision will be taken after extensive review and considering the public's comments and suggestions.
Now, meanwhile, the Lanka Electricity Company says that the social contribution levy will be added to all electricity bills. Accordingly, the company said that the levy, which will be added effective from the 8th of September, will be reflected in the electricity bills for the month of September. Even though the Social Security Contribution Levy was added to the bills issued by the Ceylon Electricity Board, it was not added to the LECO electricity bills due to an issue in the Social Security Contribution Tax Act No. 25 of 2022. LECO, or Lanka Electricity Private Company, has a consumer base of 1.2 million in Sri Lanka. Now, several areas in the country, including Colombo, continue to receive rainfall today, which resulted in inundated roads as well as overflowing rivers. Against this backdrop, the Department of Meteorology stated that fairly heavy showers of approximately 75 millimeters can be expected in several areas in the western and Sabaragamu provinces tomorrow. Meanwhile, early landslide warnings issued by the National Building Research Organisation to 7 districts in the island, including Galle and Mathura districts, were extended owing to the continued heavy rainfall. As the southwestern monsoons continue to affect the island, several areas including the western province received rainfall today. According to the Met Department, the highest amount of rainfall received during the past 24 hours was recorded from Kukuleganga in Kaluthara, amounting to 120 millimeters. The Irrigation Department says that minor floods are reported from several areas surrounding the rivers Kalu, Gin and Nilvala, as well as the Attanagalu reservoir, adding that their water levels may rise due to rainfall. Due to the increased water level of the river Gin, several lowlands in the areas of the Galle district including Udugama, Nagoda and Babbegama were flooded. Meanwhile, Akurasa was flooded due to the overflowing of the Nilvala river. Traffic on the Mathura-Akurasa main road was disrupted due to the inundation. Further, several roads across Kamurupitiya were also inundated. The Tangol-Palantudu road, meanwhile, was completely flooded due to the overflowing of the Kirama Oya. In Godakavala, meanwhile, 3 electricity posts and a tree had collapsed due to the heavy rainfall in the area. A 70-year-old woman had been reportedly injured severely following a collision with the electricity post. Meanwhile, in Haputale, a thick fog had formed in the areas attributed to heavy rainfall in the Central Highlands. Against this backdrop, a vehicle moving at high speed on the Hatton-Nuwara main road had slipped off the road and collided with a mound of earth. The driver of the vehicle had been the only person travelling in the vehicle at the time of the accident, which took place around 1 a.m. today, and had not sustained any injuries. Taking the prevailing weather pattern into consideration, the National Building Research Organisation extended early landslide warnings issued to 7 districts in the island. Accordingly, early landslide warnings issued to districts of Galle, Hambantota, Kaluthara, Kandy, K-Galle, Mathura and Ratnapura districts were extended.
In consideration with the prevailing rainy conditions and the weather forecast issued by the Department of Meteorology, the landslide early warning message has been extended to 12 noon tomorrow in the following areas. Warning level 2 alert amber warning was issued to Neluva Division 2nd Division Galle District, Ingiriya Division 2nd Division Kaluthara District, Pasbayakola Division 2nd Division Kandy District, Kottapala and Pitabaddara Division 2nd Divisions Mathura District, Ayagama, Palmadulla, Kuruvita, Kalavana, Ahliyagoda, Kiriyalla, Ratnapura, Alapatha and Nivithigala Division 2nd Divisions in Ratnapura District. In addition to that, warning level 1 watch yellow warning was issued to LPT Division 2nd Division Galle District, Walasmulla Division 2nd Division Hambantota District, Walallavita, Mathugama, Agalavatta and Bulasingala Division 2nd Divisions in Kaluthara District, Ruwanwella, Dehovita, Kagalla, Dharanigala and Yatiyantola Division 2nd Division K-Galle District, Mulatian and Athurulia Division 2nd Division Mathura District, Imulpen Colonna Division 2nd Division Ratnapura District.
Further, the Met Department in its forecast for tomorrow highlighted that showers or thunder showers are likely to occur at times in the western, Sabaragamu, southern and northwestern provinces and in the Kandy and Nuwara districts.
Now, during his visit to Germany to address the Berlin dialogue, President Ranil Wickremesinghe held bilateral discussions with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. In another meeting, the Kazakhstan head of state emphasized to President Wickremesinghe the need to take effective measures at the government level to unlock the existing potential of trade and investment ties. The Kazakhstani president also stressed the importance of easing visa requirements and establishing direct regular flights between Sri Lanka and Kazakhstan.
On the sidelines of the Berlin Global Dialogue, President Ranil Wickremesinghe met with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and held bilateral discussions. According to the president's media division, the head of state also attended the Leaders' Dialogue session led by the German Chancellor on enhancing cooperation in a multipolar world. Meanwhile, President Wickremesinghe met with President of Kazakhstan Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. While noting that both countries have strong relations based on mutual support and meaningful political dialogue, the Kazakhstan president highlighted the need to take effective measures at the government level to unlock the existing potential of trade and investment ties. Further, he also stressed the importance of easing visa requirements and establishing direct regular flights between the two countries. Both heads of state also discussed important aspects of interaction within the framework of international organizations, including at the UN level. Further, the Kazakhstan head of state invited President Ranil Wickremesinghe to participate at the Astana International Forum scheduled for 2024. Meanwhile, a high-profile meeting between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and President of the European Council Charles Michel was also held in Berlin.
Now, meanwhile, Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation Nimal Siripala de Silva reveals that President Ranil Wickremesinghe will be visiting China next month to attend the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation in Beijing. He made these comments while addressing an event organized by the Chinese embassy in Colombo. Meanwhile, the Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka reiterated his government's commitment to support Sri Lanka to solve its debt issue and place the island nation in a path of recovery and development.
An event to celebrate the 74th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, organized by the Chinese embassy, was held last evening in Colombo. The event was attended by a list of high-profile dignitaries, including Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena and former presidents Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Maithripala Sirisena and Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Over the past 3 years, under the BRI cooperation, more than 150 countries, including Sri Lanka, and 32 international organizations, has made good progress in connectivity, infrastructure, trade, and investment, with about 3,100 joint projects bringing tangible benefits to the whole world. As a Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, I'm more happy to highlight the major projects in our two countries, such as Katun-Nayak Expressway, the Southern Expressway, the CICT, the Hambantota Port, and the port city of Colombo, etc. No matter how the world changes, China and Sri Lanka are good neighbors with mutual respect and trust, and good partners with mutual benefit, and good friends who help each other. Last year, China has been supporting Sri Lanka to the best of its ability, but also is the first to reach out to Sri Lanka to properly deal with its debt issue. More importantly, China will continue to formally support Sri Lanka in pursuing a development path that suits its own national conditions, getting rid of the poverty trap and the trap of non-development, and safeguarding its independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, and national dignity.
Sri Lanka continues to uphold the One China policy in all spheres, including bilateral and multilateral fora. President of Sri Lanka is expected to visit Beijing in October for the third Belt and Road meeting for international cooperation. This high-level visit will pave way further strengthen our relations. I am confident that with the improved air connectivity between the two countries, we will see more Chinese tourists visiting Sri Lanka.
Now, independent parliamentarian Udayana Kirindigoda says the IMF program is a failure as dealings with the IMF were not conducted in a manner that benefits the country, adding that obtaining support of the IMF does not necessarily mean signing all agreements presented by them. Meanwhile, Assistant Leader of the United National Party, Akila Viraj Kariwasam, highlighted that Ranil Wickremesinghe gradually is developing the country after accepting the responsibility of leading the country at a time when no one else was willing to do so. With that, here are some views presented in the political arena.
පොට්ටුවේ නායකත්වය ගන්න ඉන්නේ
පොට්ටුවේ නායකත්වයට ඕන තරම් ඉන්න කට්ටිය අලුත් අය හදන්න ඕන හැමදාම අපි ඉඳලා වැෑනේ
විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා නම් කියන්නේ මේ පහුගිය රජයේ කාලෙම තවමත් විනාශයට කරගෙන යනවා කියලා කියන්නේ
විපක්ෂ නායකයා කියන්න බෑ එහෙම නැත්නම් විපක්ෂක ඉන්න එක තේරුම් ගන්න තියෙනවානේ
අස්වැසුම කියලා වැඩසටහනක් හදලා කිසිම විද්‍යාත්මක භාවයක් නැතුව ලක්ෂ 20ක් තෝරගෙන ඒ ලක්ෂ 20කට ලෝක බැංකුවෙන් ආසන්න සංවර්ධන බැංකුවෙන් රීපර්පස් කරපු ෆන්ඩ්ස් පටන් ගන්න ඕන දැන් පටන් අරගෙන නැහැනේ ඉස්සෙල්ලා සෙන්සස් එකක් කරන්න ඕන ඒකත් එක්කම HIS සර්වේ එක කරන්න ඕන පවර්ටි ලයින් එක අවබෝධ කරගන්න ඕන මුදල් සම්භාරයක් රටේ ජනතාවට ලැබෙනවා නම් ඒක ගැන අසන්තෝෂ වෙන්නේ නැහැ නමුත් දෙන විදිහක් තියෙනවනේ දෙන ක්‍රමයක් තියෙනවනේ
දැන් IMF එක කියන හින්දා ඔන්න ලයිට් බිල වැඩි කරනවා මොනවා හරි කරලා ඉවරලා ඒ ණය වාරිගෙත් ගන්න ණය වෙලා කකා ඉන්නවා මේ ණය වෙනවා කනවා මේ ක්‍රමේ වෙනස් උනේ නැත්තම් අවුරුදු 10කට කලින් කනවා කෑමක් ගිය අවුරුද්දේ වගේ නෙමෙයි නැත්තට නැති වෙන්නේ මේක තමයි ඇත්ත
IMF එකට යනවා කියන්නේ ඔවුන් ඉදිරිපත් කරන යුසුම් වලට අස්සම් කරලා කැමැත්ත ප්‍රකාශ කරන එක නෙවෙයි. රටට වාසිදායක විදිහට IMF ගනුදෙනු කරන්න ඕනේ. මේක ඒ විදිහට කෙරුන්නේ නැහැ. මේගොල්ලන්ගේ වැඩපිළිවෙල අසාර්ථකයි කියන එකයි කතා කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ.
එදා එතුමාලට වැඩපිළිවෙලක් තිබුණා නම් එදා මේ ප්‍රශ්න විසඳන්න තිබ්බා. එහෙම වැඩපිළිවෙලක් නොතිබුණ නිසා තමයි රට ඒ තත්ත්වයටපත් උනේ. ඉතින් ඊට පස්සේ තමයි නායකයෙකු බාර ගන්න කැමති නොවුන වෙලාව. රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහතුමා මේ රට බාර අරගෙන දැන් ක්‍රමක්‍රමයෙන් යාත්‍රාව ඉදිරියට ගෙන යමින් පවතුනවා. ඉතින් ඒකට සහයෝගය දෙනවද? එහෙම නැත්නම් දැන් තමන්ට කරගන්න බැරි වුණ දේ කිය මේකට අකුල් හෙලනවද කියලායි තීරණය කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ වගේම ජනතාව මේ தත්ත්වය තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
Now, in other local developments, many passengers were inconvenienced as several flights of Sri Lankan Airlines were delayed or cancelled due to several technical issues which had occurred in planes. Taking the situation into consideration, Sri Lankan Airlines highlighted that steps are taken to provide flights as required and also to provide accommodation to passengers in need. Meanwhile, Mullaitivu District Court Judge and Magistrate T. Saravanaraja has submitted his resignation from all judicial positions via letter submitted to the Secretary of the Judicial Services Commission.
Passengers were greatly inconvenienced as several flights of Sri Lankan Airlines were either cancelled or delayed for hours yesterday. Against this backdrop, issuing a statement, Sri Lankan Airlines highlighted that several flights had to be cancelled due to technical faults which had simultaneously occurred in several planes. The statement further said that arrangements have been made to provide flight facilities through Sri Lankan Airlines and other airlines for the inconvenienced passengers and to provide accommodation to passengers in need. Meanwhile, Mullaitivu District Judge and Magistrate T. Saravanaraja has submitted his resignation from all judicial positions. In a letter addressed to the Secretary of the Judicial Services Commission, Saravanaraja stated that he would be resigning from his posts as District Judge, Magistrate, Family Court Judge, Primary Court Judge, Small Claims Judge and Juvenile Court Judge. District Court Judge had attributed his resignation to the recent death threats received by him following certain verdicts he had delivered pertaining to various controversial and sensitive cases. In other news, mobile phones belonging to the police constable and the driver who allegedly helped Nadun Chintaka alias Harakkata in an attempt to escape have been recovered. Harakkata is currently in CID custody. The mobile phones in question were found in a heap of garbage in the Shramadana Mawatha in Kadwatha. The phones were disposed subsequent to being burnt.
The latest developments in the world of business. Join us on the other side of the short commercial break.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින් වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින්.
Welcome back. Now in your local business news, the International Monetary Fund's Deputy Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, Katsarina Jvijenka, says that Sri Lankan authorities are making good progress in terms of restructuring the island nation's state-owned enterprises. She made these comments while addressing the media briefing attended by the IMF mission in Sri Lanka for the first review. Meanwhile, IMF Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, Peter Brewer, said Sri Lanka should achieve its debt targets while maintaining financial and social stability.
SOE restructuring. Are you happy with the pace at which that is happening at the moment?
The objective of the SOE reform is to ensure that SOEs are run on a commercial basis and that they do not accumulate any more additional financial liabilities for the government. So in this area, the authorities are making good progress. For example, they introduced adjustments to the fuel and electricity prices to ensure that SOEs do not accumulate additional losses. And also, in the summer, the Cabinet approved a comprehensive strategy to address the cross-holdings of debt across the various SOEs, and these are both steps in the right direction.
The government has already announced its domestic debt optimization. Are you satisfied with it, and do you think EPF alone is enough, or do you think they need to go for banking sector as well?
From the IMF's perspective, what matters to us is that the debt targets can be reached. Remember, these are the targets with respect to the debt stock and with respect to the flow of debt, the gross financing needs, the debt service on the external side, and also the debt relief that's needed within the program period. And the government, together with their financial and legal advisors, then has to think about how to reach that objective. How can we ask the various creditors to offer relief to us, the government, so that we can comply with these objectives? So the government has chosen a particular way, and as you said, the banks are not in there. I should say we care about the targets, but we also care to some extent how we get there, in the sense that it's important for us to maintain financial and social stability, because otherwise the problem could just become worse and then these targets don't apply anymore. So here in Sri Lanka, I think financial stability is maintained. The banks will nevertheless suffer from the restructuring through their exposure to the government, through domestic foreign exchange instruments as well as external foreign exchange instruments, which is why also financial stability is an important part of the program with its own pillar.
Now, in other local business developments, 8 Spence Plantations Management PLC recently held its annual general meeting where all resolutions set out in its notice were passed. Meanwhile, Caprica Holdings PLC also held its annual general meeting where several directors were re-elected and reappointed to the company's management.
8 Spence Plantations Management PLC reveals that its annual general meeting was held recently and that all resolutions set out in the notice of meeting were approved by the shareholders. Some of the key resolutions included the reappointment of DADS Vikramanayaka, LNDS Vijayaratna and Dr. R.M. Fernando as directors, while re-electing Malik J. Fernando and DC Fernando as directors of the company. Via his statement on the annual report, the chairman of 8 Spence Plantations Management PLC, Dr. Parakrama Dissanayaka, states that the company's focus remains on transforming the company from a traditional commodity-based plantation company to a diverse operation of the future. The company's transformational strategy emphasizes on technology, innovation, diversification, factory development, automation, digitalization, and sustainability. In similar news, Abans Finance PLC announced that its 17th annual general meeting was held last Wednesday and that the resolutions set out in the notice were passed at the meeting by the shareholders. Key resolutions included the re-election of SMS Sanjay Bandara and H. Chaminda Ambulveni as directors of the company. The financial records of the company indicated a 3.04% increase in the total operating income for the year ending on the 31st of March 2023. The chairman of the company, KJ Cecil Pereira, highlighted that the company endured a healthy financial position with well-balanced assets, liabilities and equity. Total assets reached 11.1 billion rupees as at the 31st of March 2023, and return on equity and return on assets on profit after tax basis were recorded at 13.16% and 3.28% respectively for the year. The chairman further highlighted that the performance was a remarkable achievement in a market situation with a financial crisis. Caprica Holdings PLC also informs that all resolutions set out in its notice of meeting were approved at the annual general meeting held recently. The re-election of HPDV Herath, Dayangani Priyanthi Piris, SMTH Subasingh as directors of the company, while the reappointment of RAT Herath as director of the company were among the salient resolutions passed at the meeting. This year, Caprica Holdings PLC recorded a 77 million rupee loss owing to adverse economic conditions.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of AdaDerana First at 9. Stay in touch with us on www.adaderana.lk for the latest developments around the clock. Thank you. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.